Pat, what's going on, man? You're in my studio today.
I know, it's cool, huh?
It's totally cool, man. Come on, let's take a seat, man, before we get on. We are going to go on. Oh, the cameras are rolling, man. Hey, let me do the intro first, and then we'll do it. Okay? Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of Harmonics. Today, I got the world legend, one of the best, I consider the genius behind the lens, Mr. Pat Johnson.
Hello.
How are you, brother?
Good. Part two.
Part two, man. We haven't been around in a while. We haven't seen each other. It's great seeing you. So we were just chattering back and forth. Are you a photographer now, or are you a magician?
Well, I'm a photographer, but you know, you learn as you get older. You got to keep your brain going. So I learned to play guitar. So just for the hell of it, I started learning how to do magic tricks. That's kind of fun. So I just brought this silly.
Oh, so before we start our interview, you're going to do this?
Yeah, I'll do this quick.
I think this is great.
Here, hold this.
Do you want me to hold this? Okay.
Yeah. So you take a deck of cards here.
Okay.
You just take this. I'm not going to do the whole trick. I'm just going to go. Whoa. Pretty cool, huh?
Pat, man, you're great.
And
man.
they call me the Great Moranzo. That's my magic name. Moranzo the Great. No, that's you. That's my mistake.
Wait, Pat. Well, anyhow, you know what? I'm glad we're doing a second segment because you have so much to do, and you've been doing an awful lot. Let's get right into some things I want to talk about with you. The Hall of Fame. You were very excited what just happened in the Hall of Fame with Journey. Tell me about that.
Well, Journey was my first client that got started by, from, you can see it in the first episode of a shot I took of Neil Sean. And they got elected to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And Herbie, their manager, sends me an email going, Pat, you got to watch the Rock Hall of Fame. You got to watch it because they come out and they open up and they stand in front of your shot. He called it the halo shot, I believe. So I watch it, and there it is. They're standing there, and it's their first photograph ever taken of them performing live. It's a shot of Neil, and my first shot I ever took. And, you know, I almost started crying. It was so cool.
Well, that must have been a surreal moment.
It was. And then there was like 3 or 4 other shots in the thing, and Ainsley playing, and Greg Rowley singing, and Steve Perry. But it was really sweet. It was the little things that make life worthwhile.
Oh, it totally is. So that was actually your first job as a professional photographer?
It wasn't even a job. I just went as a guest of Doug Roach to Santana, and Journey was the opening act, and I happened to inadvertently take this one shot of Neil Sean. And
so while we're talking about, you know, Herbie and them, let's talk about, because you also did, today's day is besides just being 9/11, it's also the first anniversary of Leonard Hayes. You took some of the first pictures of Y&T yesterday and today, am I correct?
Yes, Herbie and Lou Ramey, they were partners at the time with Spread Eagle Productions, and they said, hey, Pat, let's come with us. We're going to go down to some high school, might have been Hayward High, I don't know, somewhere over here, you know, and we drove in the car and smoked hash all the way. And we'd come and we'd go to some high school, I think, and we watched some band play called Yesterday and Today play. And they signed them and had me do photos of them. And I have the classic photo with them in the boxing gloves.
Menichetti was in there, yeah. That's a great shot. It's, you know, a lot of people have been posting that shot, believe it or not, because of, you know, Y&T, all the different formations that they've had in the band.
Yeah, but Y&T was those 4 guys.
Yeah,
sorry.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct on that, man. You know, when Boy George,
he came to my studio, and we're doing a Columbia Records sent him in, and we're doing a poster for a European and Japanese tour. So I went out and got a New York Yankee uniform. I played softball for 40 years, the Phantoms, and we used to have full uniform. I put him in a Phantom uniform, not him. Boy George was huge. He was an ex-boxer. His head's like this big compared to the other guys. He was huge, really? Yeah. And so he's normal, and I put him in a baseball bat, and he's holding it backwards like this. and the other guys had them in a Phantom uniform, and another guy was in a Yankee uniform, and put Cleveland Indian hats on them. Of course, I'm from Cleveland, and it was really, I loved them. I liked their music at the time, and those days were cassette tapes, and I had like oldies, and it ran out, and he said, I said, want to hear anything specific, George? He goes, yeah, you got any show tunes? I go, well, I don't know. I got West Side Story. He goes, too violent.
Really?
Honest to God. Yeah. Yeah, Boy George. Then we went to, it was really cute. Then we went over to Fort Mason to do some location shots. And here's Boy George in his full regalia, all the guys in their full regalia. And I'm taking these pictures, and the Smokey the Bear guy, the ranger guy, comes out. And you're supposed to have a permit to do this stuff, you know.
Oh, really? Even to shoot like that?
Yeah, Golden Gate Park, you're supposed to have a permit. Oh. And so any public, you know, so the guy goes, hey, what are you doing here? And I go, oh, these are my cousins. Okay, look, okay.
Seriously?
I got umbrellas, and these are my cousins.
Oh, while we're moving through your, all the people that you've taken, let's go to Greg Allman, who just passed also. What about Greg Allman? How was Greg Allman?
You know, I've photographed him a number of times. But the one time he came in, he was with the Greg Allman band, and it was his band was the Alameda All-Stars, basically.
Yes.
Right? And those are all one Tommy Thompson and
Brad Gillis.
Yeah, Mark Bergstaller. And so he came into my studio, and we did all these shots of him. But the thing about that made it funny was the whole time he'd go, Pat. And I'd go, I turned to Kathy, my assistant, and go, what did he just say? And he goes, I don't know. The whole night. He's like, Pat, I don't know what it was, but
was he drunk?
I don't know.
I know that he did like to sip a lot. But
yeah, he might have been. He might have been in the bathroom for a minute or two, but you know, we didn't understand a word he said the whole night.
Really?
But he's a really nice guy, I think.
Yeah, well, seemed to be on that.
Yeah.
Red Hot Chili Peppers. I'm just going to move around.
Okay, that's a cute story. I was shooting. I had to shoot them, and it was the cuteness of it is it was right in the transition from film to digital, and I went and got a new digital camera, 35 millimeter. And they looked just like the film camera, Nikon's. And I only had one because you couldn't afford to buy two. They're $5,000 each.
Right.
So I go to the Oakland Coliseum, the indoor, and I get there, and I have my film camera and all the memory cards. And I go, oh, Christ, I got no film. I mean, and so in those days, film was all over my car, under the seat, sitting there, getting sun beat for a year. So I ran back to my car, and I started digging through under the seat and the glove compartment. I find like 3 rolls of completely the wrong kind of film, God bless, I got the shot.
It actually worked.
Oh, and it was one of the hardest thing for shooting a band live is to get all 4 of them, A, in focus, B, looking good. This one I got them all looking cool, and the lead singers stopped in midair.
Oh, wow.
Completely wrong kind of film, Never did that mistake again.
Joan Jett.
Joan Jett, where'd that come from? I photographed her a bunch of times. I like her.
She's tiny, isn't she?
Yeah, and last time, the second, 2 times ago I shot her, Aaron from Live Nation, who controls the photographers and all that stuff, runs over and goes, Pat, I need a favor of you. I guess their manager is also the keyboard player.
Oh,
and he had his granddaughter playing. So I had to literally, I'm taking pictures, and the guy goes, go on out there, go on out there. I go, what do you mean go out there? They had me go right out on the stage. And this is a big,
gigantic
stage.
Yeah, right.
And I'm like, they're taking pictures of this guy, like in Joan Jett's 4 feet, and it's my back, And I ran into the guy shooting her last year, and he said it was one of the best pictures he ever had of him and his granddaughter. It was really sweet.
Oh, that is sweet.
Yeah, silly.
Peter Frampton.
Where are you getting these things?
Hey, man, I'm just throwing them out.
Oh, man, use that thing. Well, I love Frampton. I grew up loving Humble Pie. Just loved Humble Pie. Shaky
band.
Jake, and I loved them. And then I loved his stuff. And then he did that greatest hits album, that whatever live album that made him a superstar. And I kind of got sick of him. But I had to photograph him a couple times. But most recently, I photographed him for a K-Fox concert, I believe. And it was really cool because it was like it was Night Ranger was the opening act, and those guys are old friends of mine. Brad Gillis, loved those guys, were pals. And then the second act was Frampton, and their tour manager was another really old friend of mine, and then Steve Miller was the headliner, and Scotty Beret.
Yes,
I've
from
known him
what-
since
right, yeah,
1975. So it was
yeah.
like old home week. It was kind of cute.
That was, wow, Scotty's a great guy.
Yeah, he is.
Great guy. So well, let's change it a little bit. So Joe Walsh, and I know you're a big Cleveland fan, so
Yeah.
talk about Joe.
Well, I've always been, growing up, we used to have fake IDs, and we'd drive to Kent from Cleveland to go to the JB's was the club, and the James Gang was the house band. So we'd go there and see the James Gang. Of course, we'd, doofuses that we thought we were cool. We'd try and pick up, college girls, and it never succeeded. But, and so I love the James Gang, and just they're so good. And you know that Jimmy Page's iconic guitar?
Yes.
That was given to him by Joe Walsh.
The one that Jimmy always plays on when you see the Les Paul.
The
What a
Les
gift.
Paul. Yeah.
What a great note in history.
Yeah. And so he was playing at the B.R. Cohn charity event. It was 97. And so he's from Cleveland, and I'm from Cleveland. So we're shooting the breeze because the Indians are in the World Series right then and there while we're, that week while we're a few days. So it was a great show, of course, Joe Walsh. But the next day, Bruce had a golf tournament. And so Joe was playing, and I'm photographing this golf tournament for Bruce Cohn. And here's Joe Walsh standing in his goofy red pants, his goofy shirt. And I pull up, and me and my son Casey, and I go, oh, man, I'd love to get him in my Cleveland Indian hat, And out of the mouth of babes, Casey's like 10. He goes, well, why don't you just ask him? I go, all right, hey, Joe, can we? Sure, man. And I got this amazingly goofy photograph of Joe Walsh in his goofy outfit, golf outfit, leaning on with my Cleveland Indian hat. It's one of my prized photographs.
Is it on your website?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, God, that's great. That's a great story. Let's change in a little social commentary. The Crips. Talk about in the L.A. riots, how that all developed, and how did you get involved in that whole situation?
Well, one of the things about my photography, and as we discussed in part one,
yes,
it's the stuff. My stuff is all over the place.
Right.
From hip hop. At one point, probably in like 2003, I really believed that I had the largest collection of hip hop photographs that I had taken in the world. Because I was KMEL summer jams, and then they'd hire me to do, bring in Bone Thugs and all these different characters. And so it was a summer jam on Saturday in the Bay Area, KMEL, and then they flew everyone down. It was kind of a variation of the same thing, but they flew me and Billy and Casey, my son, down to do the Sunday version of it. I forget the radio station, and it was brutal. It was the Grape Street Crips were Crips, as like the Bloods and the Crips,
right.
And there's like 80 or 90 of them just gang rushed through the gates because they had security guards waving for guns and stuff, and the security was the Nation of Islam. Wow. With the bow ties.
Wow.
And everyone knew, and these guys who went sat where they wanted. I could just see them. Hey, you're in my seat. Nah. You know what I mean? And so at one point, fights start breaking out, and I'm on the stage. Billy's in the pit, and Casey's behind me shooting, and we see these fights start breaking out there, and it's reds versus blue, right? And bottles start flying, full water bottles, and people start screaming. It was mind-boggling, and all of a sudden, the Nation of Islam guys go out there to break it up, and the Crips are like pounding the Nation of Islam guys. It's like, oh my God, what, and so everybody starts rushing the stage. So I reach down and grab Billy and pull him out of the pit, and we run for our lives. And I lose my son for 15. He's like 14.
Oh my
we found him; he was safe, but it was totally a bizarre scene.
It was probably just so chaotic.
Oh, there's a video I posted on Facebook of it. These guys had they had one guy. People were pulling him up on the stage. And the other people are pulling him this way, and they've got his pants on. They're kicking him in the face. It was
brutal.
Brutal. I mean, brutal. Right. They wouldn't let
that made news. That made national news too, right? Wasn't it?
And they canceled the show right then and there. Mm-hmm. So we all the artists and everyone had to sit there for like 6 hours maybe while the helicopters are flying with the LA with the flag, the lights like they do.
I don't like LA. I don't like LA police.
Yeah.
So I mean, you are
it was
very
like swimming. It was like swimming with sharks.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You were you're like you just said earlier. You have such a wide range, and you're so diverse. You've worked for some professional teams here in the Bay. Let's talk about first the Golden State Warriors.
Interesting. There's a photographer friend of ours. You probably know him, Randy Bachman.
Yes,
He
I
was
do.
killed by a drunk about 20-some years ago, and he had heard. This was like '83. He had heard that the Warriors were looking for a photographer, so I went out and. South Park, it's now Techie Weasels, and it's literally Twitter started across the street, Instagram on South Park. But when I was there in the '80s, it was a black ghetto, you know, with tires burning 24 hours a day. And I played softball for the South Park Gators, you know.
Wow.
Right, and it was you know, it was like the junkie hotel up the corner, and people would come in and they'd be like this, and you own the Pats? You're cool, you know. Literally, it was heavy. And what were we talking about?
We were talking about the Golden State Warriors.
Oh, the Warriors. So I got a bunch of the guys from the neighborhood to come in, and I, you know, Man Bose and Clarence, and I did this photo, a test photo, like 12 guys, 11 guys, all in tight, like as if I were shooting Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Okay.
Right. Did this really cool photo, and then went into the Warriors and said, I'll do this for your team. And Steve Lampy, who was the guy, I think, goes, oh my God, and he hired me to do that. We did, you know, it was the draft year that Mullen was drafted, and they did a poster that we matched that photograph and put Mullen and, you know, blah 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 blah, and then I became their photographer for.
So when you were in there, did you have like total access to them? You could talk to them one-on-one. Who was your favorite Warrior, or if you had a favorite Warrior or a couple?
Bar none, not even close. Tim Hardaway.
Timmy Hardaway.
Timmy, and then last maybe 3-4 months ago at Stone Soul Picnic in Concord I was shooting that, and somebody said Timmy Hardaway's there, and I see him, and it was like old buddies. Oh man, we started hugging each other. It was really sweet. I love Tim Hardaway.
Great basketball player.
Oh man, he was just always smiled. He's kind of like Lindor for the Indies. Always smiled, you know.
That's
run,
so great.
And I did anytime anyone sees a Run TMC photograph, that's mine.
That's yours.
Right, all the Run TMC.
My goodness.
Yeah.
That was big back in the day.
Yeah, and I have a photograph of Run TMC and Run DMC all together, like, you know, it was really cute. Yeah, really cool.
Yeah.
And I like Chris Webber. I liked Mullen was really aloof and quiet, but I like Webber. But Hardaway, he's a
chatterbox.
Yeah,
just always talking.
Yeah.
Your affiliation with the Giants, and how did that all come about when you did with the Giants?
I don't remember how it started, but, you know, I did a lot of stuff for them. I did Dave Dravecki's book cover before his arm was cut off, and then he came back, and of course, if you remember, his arm snapped in the game, and then he had his arm cut off, and then he came back and did another book, and I did I was like an invisible chain between him and I. I had photographed him on Dave Dravecki Day, and that was pretty.
I was there that day.
Yeah, that was, you were?
Pretty emotional, yeah.
Oh, wow, it was powerful. And he, you know, it was against the Dodgers too, and the Dodgers all came up and gave him hugs, and it was really powerful, you know. And then I was up in his box with his family, and then after the game, we went in the locker room with Kevin Mitchell, and that was that era, and they're all, you know, I forgot who won the game, doesn't matter, but like 45 minutes after the game, he and I are walking out at the old Candlestick, and if you remember where the parking lot, the players' lot was, we walk out, and there's like 100-some people up on the waiting for him, and they all start cheering him. He's like, Dravecki was like really a simple, humble man, you know.
Yes.
And he's like, he's embarrassed, and I go, hey, you got to stop here. They're not cheering for me, man. And he looks at me, and goes, you're right. And he looks up, and these people start, and we both look at each other. Tears start going down. You know, I ran into him at the Fan Fest last year. We talked about that. He's a Youngstown boy. You know,
he is really when he actually my friend's father, Mike Bumgar's father, sang the national anthem that day, and then afterwards, when he actually had that injury, I actually wrote him. He wrote me back.
That would be him.
You know, and it was pretty.
Oh, you were at the game where his arm snapped?
No, I was at the game when they came back, Dave Dravecki Day, the day that you were talking about, when they honored him. It was pretty amazing. That was really amazing to see that and be at, you know, the stick. I love the stick, even though it got really cold at night. But it was just a great.
You know, I agree, because the Pac Bell's a pretty cool place, but it doesn't have the same vibe.
No, not at all.
Being from Cleveland, And going to a Giants-Dodgers game in those at the Stick was nothing like it.
Nothing like it.
Nothing like it.
Man. It was just great. And I've been a fan since '58 for the Giants, so I love them. So, you know, as we move through your course of all this different work that you did, you also, we talked about earlier before you came on, you said that Andy Gibb.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Well, again, I forget what label he was on but he played at Old Waldorf, I think it was, and they had autograph signing at Tower Records up there, Tower at Bay and whatever it is,
Right,
in Columbus, and so I have these really cool photographs of Andy Gibb. He's a really nice guy, and the band photos and him live, and blah 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 blah. Really great photos of him. I mean, I don't own an Andy Gibb record, nor would I ever play one, but it doesn't matter. You know, if I only photograph what I like, I'd be out of business. So I like everything I photograph, including Blue Voodoo.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Nice pitch.
And so, actually, they're a really great band. You know, you go on your website, you can go back and look at, you know, how many hits you get and just go through them.
Right, yes.
And Andy Gibb, the hits were like up here, and the closest was here.
How do you figure that?
I have no idea. Andy friggin' Gibb, yeah.
Andy Gibb.
Yeah.
Let's talk about one of my favorite blues players and got to meet him, John Lee Hooker.
Yeah, yeah.
Tell me about John.
Well, you know, I liked him a lot. I like the blues.
God.
You know, I've been learning how to play guitar for like 15 years. I never took lessons, but to me, it's the blues.
Yes.
You know, and I think Muddy Waters had the song "The Blues Had a Baby," and they called it rock and roll. It's so true. You know, but John Lee Hooker, you know, boom, 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 boom. You heard the Animals going boom, boom, boom. You know, oh, that's a great song. And then you heard the original. Holy moly!
Yes,
you know?
holy
Same
God.
with the Stones. You hear Little Red Rooster, and then you hear the original. Oh, Howlin' Wolf. Holy moly! But I love John Lee Hooker. He was a sweet guy. I think it's one of my top 20 photographs. He's haughty.
Yes.
With the shark skin suit on,
Yes.
the hat. It's not. It's a fedora. It's not the, you know, pork pie hat. It's a classic fedora. He's looking up haughty, and my umbrellas are in his sunglasses. And such a cool.
Oh, that is a great shot. I remember seeing that. You know, how did he play for you at all, or you guys just kind of hung out while he was
hung out.
just hung out? Huh?
Yeah.
He didn't do any work.
and then I was able to. He got they have this thing at the San Francisco where they have little stars or whatever.
Oh, like a memorial.
Yeah.
Where's that at?
It's by the Bill Graham Civic Center. You know?
Oh, it's them. It's those little 4 or 5 little.
Yeah. So I got to photograph him doing that, and he was there with Santana and his son. I liked him a lot. You know.
That was great. Rick James.
Oh boy. I didn't party with him, thank God, or I probably wouldn't be here. But you know, he was Rick James. I'm Rick James, bitch. You know, he was. It was at the record plant, and I had to go shoot him at the record plant, and he was like, you know, with smoke, you know, drifting. That's a really, really cool photograph, Rick James. There's no great story. It's just shooting Rick James alone is a great story.
Oh yeah, man. He's one of a kind.
Yeah.
I mean, he's gone also, but he's just one of a kind. Edgar and Johnny Winter. Seems like we're staying in this little blues.
Well, that's
situation.
okay. That's okay. I got to shoot. I love Johnny Winter. Probably, you know, why I played slide guitar is because of Brian Jones playing Little Red Rooster.
Yes.
Johnny Winter and the first 2 albums. Then you know, a progressive blues experiment where he's holding the National Steel and looking in his reflection. I love Johnny Winter. So I got to photograph him live at a concert, and they had me set up a studio, and I got these really nice. And he was old by that time. They had to literally wheel him in a wheelchair.
Johnny, they did?
Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah. And but he picked up his, you know, Levson guitar. But I got this really cool portrait. And then 2 years later, Edgar Winter was playing somewhere, and we were walking. I shot him live for Biarcone, and we were walking back, and such a casual play. He's such a casual guy. I said, "Hey, you know what? I got this photograph of your brother about 2-3 years ago. I got to get one of you." He goes, "Oh, okay." He was just so gregarious and so wonderful. He goes, "Let's go find a place." And he walked around. No. He's like, that's how he was. We found a cool spot, and he posed for me. Edgar Winter, because a lot of these rock stars are like too cool for school. You know,
Right.
You know,
He seems. when I interviewed Johnny, Sujo and I, he was just so down to earth. He was really sick though.
Yeah.
I thought they were just he was just really sick, and he was just a nice guy,
Yep.
man. You know, it's a lot of things, man. It's gone too soon. You didn't take care of yourself, or he just didn't take care of himself. Jeff Beck.
Didn't we just do that one?
No, we haven't done Jeff yet.
Oh, well, Jeff, we did that. Well, okay, it was Epic Records, and it was backstage at the Day on the Green, and I had to get these shots of him, and I have shots of him on stage with Santana, Neil Sean, and him playing together. Really cool shots. So I go up and I got to take these shots. And he looked at me like I was a piece of shit. He's like, you know. I got the shots. They're monsters.
The Stones. Since we're in the English realm right now, yeah.
Well, I think I may have told you this before, but I was at, we went to see the Stones. This is another time when they're playing at Pac Bell. And my late wife and I are standing there and watching the show. And I turn to her and I go, you know what? I'm a failure. I failed is what I wanted to do. And she looks at me and goes, what are you talking about? I go, because growing up in Cleveland, I wanted to be in London and swinging London and photograph Humble Pie and the Stones and
Jerry and the Pacemakers.
Right. No, I mean the modern version.
The Who.
Yeah, you know Mott the Hoople.
You wanted to see all those
That's
guys.
why I wanted to be photographed.
Bowie. But you did do Bowie.
Right.
Yeah.
And she looks at me and goes, what are you, nuts? You photographed Jefferson. You photographed all those guys anyhow, but instead of the Jefferson Airplane, the Grateful Dead. So anyhow, so that's an aside to that question. But what was the question?
But what are the Stones?
Oh,
How
yeah,
the Stones?
This is when I first started. I got hired by the San Jose Mercury News, and they were doing a poster giveaway on the Sunday supplement, the Sunday paper, so that when you got the paper, there was a color poster. And the first one they wanted to do was the Rolling Stones. So those days there was no pit, no photo passes.
Right.
So me, my late wife Denise, and I asked a motor biker buddy of mine to come with us. So we squirrel our way up. Excuse me. And I'm a really polite guy. Excuse me. And those are the days when these people slept overnight for 3 days at the Cow Palace.
Yes.
And here I am pushing my way in front of these goofs that slept for 3 days out in the haven't taken a crap in 3 days, but I'm pushing my way. Excuse me. But I'm always polite. So finally I get up, and of course now they're not letting you get any further.
Right.
I go, so I stop and go, look, I'll only be here a minute. I gave my card to everyone. I said, let me take 10 minutes worth of shots. You call me, I'll send you a picture. And so the biker gets down on his knees. I get on his shoulders. He stands up. I was like the chick with in those days, I take 2 rolls of film with the Stones, squirrel down, thank everyone, and I got these, some of my most classic photos. And then the shot they used is Mick Jagger like this.
Is that how that picture was taken?
Yeah. And then I got Keith Richards in black and white.
Yeah, Keith.
Stone,
You know what? Keith Richards just, anyway you take a picture of him, he's just photogenic and he just represents it all. You named 2 bands while you're going in the Stones. Let's first go with the Jefferson Starship or Jefferson Airplane. How did you mingle with them for a while?
Yeah, we talked about them a little bit earlier. I don't know why. It just so happened that I became really good friends with them. Nadine Condon was their publicist, and before that was Cynthia Bowman, and Cynthia and Nadine are still dear friends of mine. And so I got to shoot the airplane in the airplane's heyday was before my time.
Okay.
Right? I was a kid in Cleveland still,
Right.
When I started was late 74. So it was the end of the airplane into more like the Starship, right? And
Marty and all of them.
Right, and then it evolved into the Mickey Thomas, and I remember me and Ben Fong Torres going to somewhere and sitting in a video all night long watching this video by this insane video director named Irv something or other. We're all roaring, laughing, thinking it's the best video we've ever seen. And when the video came out, it was absolutely horrible, So I'm still friends with them. Mickey, whenever he needs photos, he calls me, and I don't know what's going to happen with the new version of the Starship without Paul Kantner, but Donnie Baldwin's a drummer.
Yes,
I did his wedding years ago, and David Freiberg, blah blah blah. There's wonderful.
I met David one day at I met his son. over at Biscuits and Blues.
Wonderful people.
Oh, they're great
You know.
people. The Dead.
I'm not a deadhead at all. I mean, I saw them a couple times. I saw them at Woodstock. I have no memory of it. And then I went to, I was in Columbus, New Year's or Halloween, and I won't get into what my friend Frank and I ingested, but we ingested.
We don't want to know.
We ingested a lot of things, including a half a bottle of tequila on top of the things we ingested. And my buddy Mustang Sally drove from Cleveland to Columbus. He was on acid. And I get there, and I remember standing up at wherever my seat was, and I remember like the first 3 notes, and I remember falling down. And then the next thing I remember was walking out, and the cops going, "You, get in the paddy wagon."
Just you.
Me. And then Frank comes up, he goes, "Frank, it was me." "You, get in the paddy wagon." The next morning, I woke up and sleeping in somebody's puke, and that was messed up. But anyhow, so years later, I had to photograph the Dead. It was backstage at the Bammies, and I guess they'd won a bunch of awards. And I'm shooting them, and the whole time this guy's in my ear screaming, "You owe me, you owe me, you owe me," like this screaming in my ear. It was, it was this, their publicist, who became a really good friend of mine later. But I'm thinking, then I realized I did owe him, because you didn't get to shoot studio shots of the Grateful Dead.
Right.
They're really rare. And I have great shots of them. Then I have this amazing photograph of Jerry Garcia,
Yes.
Bob Weir,
Yes.
Joe Montana, the
Yes.
quarterback of the 49ers.
Buck Owen.
No, Huey
was it?
Lewis
Oh,
and
Huey.
Sheila E.
Oh.
That's that grouping. How rare is that,
Very rare.
Yeah. and
Yeah,
so-
very rare. New York, Laura Nero. How was that?
Yeah, it was really sweet. A really dear friend of mine, Lee Housekeeper, you may or may not know him. He's a PR guy in San Francisco. I still see him a lot. He's a wonderful guy. He was very close friends with Laura Nero, among other people. And he had me shoot her once, and she loved my photographs so much that whenever she was in New York City, Laura Nero, the hub of like edgy fashion photography, and she'd come to San Francisco and have me shoot her. What an honor.
Wow.
Yeah. And
Was she small in stature, or?
I don't remember.
Because she was just a beautiful lady, and she died.
Like 15 years ago.
Yeah, it was just really sad to hear that when her was passing. Aerosmith.
This is a cute story. I like Aerosmith.
Me too.
I like, I think the lead singer's a little bit of a goof, but he's like a wannabe Mick Jagger or whatnot. But Joe Perry, wow, right?
Oh God.
So, one thing I liked about them, they were on Columbia. Columbia was my good client, and whenever you do the meet and greets, they'd always demand that there be a professional photographer. So thank you. So in those days, I would shoot the pictures and count the heads and make prints. So it was a nice little job. So this was at Shoreline. And my daughter, Nicole, she's with me. She's like 14. She likes Aerosmith kind of vaguely, but she was more into hip-hop and Eminem and the Jacksons. But she's with me standing there, and she has big lips. And Steven Tyler sees Nicole, and he points to her lips. He points to his lips. He goes, "Come here." And she trots up. She's 14, and he gives her a peck on the cheek. And I go, click, take a picture. And then she gives him a peck on the cheek. Click, I take the picture. And he's like because they have big lips.
Right.
Like she kind of looks like his daughter. And she doesn't look like her daughter, but big lips like it.
Right.
And so I take the pictures and I shoot them. I'm getting ready to go out and shoot them live. And their tour manager guy walks out to me and goes, "I saw you taking unauthorized pictures. I need the film." I'm going, "Right. I'm going to give you the pictures of my daughter, Steven, how about you?" I'm thinking this, right? So I go, "Okay, this is film days." So I go, bzz, hit the motor drive, reach my pocket, and hand him an empty roll of film. I ain't giving you the film. Kiss my ass.
So, what are you doing now in right now, present time? What are you doing? I mean, I've been in your studio, and you did a great job for us, man. You made us look like stars of Blue Voodoo, and we totally appreciate it. What are you doing now? Because you have such a vast archive. What are you actually doing?
Well, just like I'm still doing it. Because I babysit my daughter twice a week, the kids twice a week, cut back, but they just moved to San Diego, so I'll be back out there more. But like last weekend, Labor Day weekend, on Saturday, I shot at Shoreline. It was 106 degrees. I shot Cheap Trick. Jason Bonham's experience, which was, wow, they were good. This is John Bonham's son playing Led Zeppelin. And then Christ, who was that? Oh, and Foreigner. And I'd never seen Foreigner before. They were really good. I don't have any of their records. I'm not a big fan of it, but, you know.
Very good band.
Really good band. And then the next day, I was at Concord Pavilion photographing, you know, hot summer nights. It was 106 degrees, right? And it was Ja Rule, completely different. It was Ja Rule, Ashanti, Naughty by Nature, Brandy, Mace.
You were there the whole day.
Oh, yeah.
Night. So that was back to back.
Back to back. So I mean, I'm still doing it.
Did you? Oh, so you're still doing it. So you're still up to date. You're just moving around now more.
Yeah.
When you did, I'm curious about Jason Bonham. Was he doing Zeppelin stuff or?
Unbelievable.
Really?
They did the Led Zeppelin experience. And the band was fantastic. That's as close as you're going to get to Led Zeppelin,
right,
unless
exactly.
Page and Plant get together like they did 20 years ago.
Right.
But they were great, and he was really a nice guy. He got up and thanked his dad for creating all this great music.
Oh,
and it was really sweet.
Good crowd, big crowd, sold out.
Yeah.
It was
I don't know, sold out. Was damn close.
Wow. And how about the one over in Concord also?
Packed out, sold out. 106 degrees, sold out.
It was 106 over there too. Oh yeah, this past weekend.
Yeah.
So when you go out and you're doing all this, how do you get your angles? Are you actually looking for a shot, or you're really up close? Do you get close? You use a lens? What do you use? What do you usually use?
It's interesting. I don't want to give my trade secrets, but at the shoreline, you have to shoot right. There's no pit, so you're right up front. Okay. But you can't be right in front of the crowd, so you can stand here or over there. And oddly enough, all 6 other photographers, they're over there. You know, I'm over here.
By yourself.
And guess who has the best angle? Of course I do. I always do. You know what I mean? You know, they go blah, 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 and I'm going, I'm a hunter, man. You know, he's going, they're going, blah, 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 and running around like chickens with their heads cut off, and I'm going, you know, and, you know. Frankie Lane, I want to tell you that story.
Yeah. I was going to get into Frankie, but I like that story. How you? So you're pretty calm. You're just calm. You're just doing your thing.
I do. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Frankie Lane.
Well, so my shit's all over the place. I mean, you got
Pat Boone. You've done Pat Boone. You've got some Buck Owens. I mean, you've got so many
everybody.
different.
John Lee Hooker. Now Frankie friggin' Lane, Mule Skinner, and Wagon Train, and whatever else.
Exactly.
You know, whatever the hell he did. So I'm shooting them it was at a Gavin thing years ago, and we're standing around shooting the breeze. And I just casually say, hey, you know, Frankie, my mother always loved you. He goes, oh, what's her name? Mary Johnson. And he'd give me her address. I didn't think of it. I wrote her address on the back of my business card and forgot about it. My mom dies in like 2004 or whatever year it was. And we're going through her stuff, and son of a bitch, there's an 8x10 glossy to Mary,
from Frankie
best
Lane.
Love, your
Lane.
son Pat's a sweet something, Frankie Lane. And then my best friend growing up, Frank Zybert, everyone called him Frankie Lane. So I gave him the print. You know, he probably didn't get it, but you know.
Oh my
Frankie,
goodness.
I mean, that's class.
Any final words? Anything you want to share with the audience? Or I know last time we didn't put the credit in for Denise. Is there anything you want to say to your family? I know you really are close to the twins, but this is a little time for you to just say anything what you'd like to say, man, about your family. And
yeah, thanks. That's really sweet. I don't start crying like I did in the last damn one. You put it.
That's okay.
I'm a lucky guy. You know, my mom and dad were really special. My mom supported me really hard to be an artist. When I wanted it, she supported me. And my dad bought me my first camera, as we discussed. And then Denise, my late wife, she worked, you know, when I was starving to make it. And my mother would always bought me little photographer statues she'd hunt for them and have them special made. Then Denise did it, and now Casey does it, my son. And then I have my son Casey. I'm really lucky. He's a great young man. Right. And Nicole, my daughter, and they're both with great people. Shell and George, and the twins, Joe and Jackson, and then my dog Rocco. But I've been really blessed. I've been, you know, I know we all go through our ups and downs and our sadnesses and happinesses, and everyone thinks everyone's wonderful, and it's not really true.
Right.
But I've been really blessed with my family, and I'm really proud and honored that I have my knuckleheads.
That's very true, and thank you for that. You know, you're going to continue then. You're not going to stop. You're going to be nonstop. You're going to be going out and photographing whoever you can.
Yeah, you know, I'm not going to. My nephew, Kerry, I have twin nephews, and Kerry's got a real successful company in San Diego, and he's having a friend of his rebuild my website, and they're going to build me back up again because they know what I went through with Denise. They love Denise. And I want to give a shout out to my new friend, Red. Hi, Red.
That's kind of cool. Red, that's kind of cool. That's time that he just gave you. So, hey, Pat, you know how I feel about you. I mean, you made us look great, Blue Voodoo. I mean, we'll post that probably in the interview. We'll talk to Sue Joy and get some film and all that. But as I close, I'm sitting next to a legend, a man that I have admired from afar, and then I had the honor to actually connect with him and meet him. And believe me, he is truly one of the greatest photographers and persons I've ever met in my life. He has tons of stories. It's an honor to have him on the show, and God bless you and long life to you, brother. I love you as a brother, and you are truly the man, the genius behind the camera.
2 Dagos.
2 Dagos, man, 2. Hey, so what we normally do when we're all done, we actually give a shout out. We want to thank all the people that watch Harmonics and makes it the most popular independent show. And we're going to give everybody a kiss goodnight, and God bless you. Here we go. Ready, Pat? Peace and love to you.